The morning sun spills through the thin curtains. Grace opens her eyes and listens to the quiet hum of the world. A soft breeze brushes her face, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine. She sits up slowly, feeling the familiar stiffness in her knees. Every movement reminds her of time, gentle, unhurried but unyielding. Outside, the park is alive with sound, laughter, birds, footsteps. Grace watches from her window, her teacup warm in her hands. Across the street, a small group of seniors moves together. Their motions are slow, balanced, almost like a calm dance. Knees bend, toes press into the ground. There's peace in their rhythm, a quiet strength. Grace smiles, half curious, half unsure. She used to walk that same path years ago. Now, even standing too long makes her joints ache. But something about those gentle movements calls to her. They aren't rushing, they aren't straining. They're simply flowing, like water finding its way. Grace takes another sip of tea and watches closer. Maybe, she thinks, it's not too late to move again. Maybe all she needs is a small step, from knee to toe. Grace stood by the window, watching the golden light spill across the park. She loved mornings like this, quiet, gentle, full of small promises. Her cup of tea rested on the sill, steam curling like soft ribbons in the air. Down below, the group of seniors began their routine once again. Grace had seen them before, but never paid much attention. Today, something about their calm focus drew her in. Their bodies moved slowly, knees bending, toes pressing, breath steady. No music, no rush, just the sound of their rhythm with the earth. Each motion looked simple, yet full of purpose and care. Grace tilted her head, studying them with quiet curiosity. Her knees ached from the morning walk to the kitchen. A dull, stubborn pain that had followed her for years. She used to ignore it, pretending it was nothing. But lately, even small steps felt heavier, slower, unsure. Still, when she saw the way those seniors moved, something stirred inside her. They weren't fighting time, they were moving with it. Their faces showed no struggle, only peace. Grace wondered what it would feel like to move like that again. To trust her body, to feel strong without forcing it. The thought stayed with her as she sipped her tea. Later that day, while buying vegetables, she met an old friend, Mrs. Lynn. Mrs. Lynn had always been lively, full of stories and laughter. Yet today she looked stronger, straighter, more at ease than ever. "You look wonderful," Grace said, a bit surprised. Mrs. Lynn smiled, brushing her hair back with pride. "It's those morning exercises," she said softly. "The knee-to-toe bends." Grace blinked, realizing she'd seen her in that same group before. "You mean that gentle movement they do in the park?" "Yes," Mrs. Lynn nodded. "It keeps the joints soft and the heart calm." Grace hesitated, unsure if her old knees could manage it. Mrs. Lynn touched her arm kindly. "Start small, even a few bends help." The words lingered in Grace's mind the entire evening. She thought of her morning pain, her stiffness, her slow steps. And then she thought of that peaceful group, moving like waves. Something inside her whispered, "Try." The next morning, she put on her old walking shoes. They were worn, faded, but still comfortable, still hers. She walked slowly to the park, feeling the air cool on her skin. The group was already there, moving in quiet harmony. A leader, perhaps in his 80s, guided them with a soft voice. "Breathe in, bend your knees, feel your weight move forward." Grace stood at a distance, copying the motion shyly. Her knees trembled, her balance uncertain, but she didn't stop. For the first time in a long while, she felt her body respond. Her breath deepened, her shoulders loosened, her mind quieted. It wasn't perfect, not even close. But it was movement, it was life. She smiled to herself, her heart light as the morning breeze. Maybe this was how healing began, one gentle bend at a time. The next morning came with soft light, and birdsong outside the window. Grace woke earlier than usual, her body still remembering yesterday's movement. There was a quiet excitement in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. She tied her scarf, put on her walking shoes, and stepped into the cool air. The park looked fresh, shimmering with dew on the grass. The same group of seniors was already there, standing in a loose circle. Grace hesitated for a moment, then slowly joined them. The leader, an older man with calm eyes, nodded to her with a kind smile. "No rush," he said softly. "Just listen to your body." Grace nodded, her heart fluttering with both nerves and hope. The leader began the routine, his voice slow and steady. Stand tall, feet shoulder-width apart, shoulders relaxed, eyes forward. Grace followed, feeling every muscle stretch gently awake. "Now," he continued, "bend your knees just a little, not too deep." Grace lowered herself carefully, feeling her weight shift toward her toes. Her knees protested at first, but she breathed through the stiffness. The movement was small, but it reached deep inside her legs. She felt the ground beneath her, solid and forgiving. "Good," the leader said. "Now rise back up slow and smooth." She straightened, exhaling softly, feeling warmth spread through her body. The others moved in quiet rhythm, their breaths falling into harmony. Each bend was like a wave flowing, gentle, unbroken. Grace began to understand the rhythm, the dance between control and release. "Feel the connection," the leader said, "from knee to toe." Grace focused on that line of motion, her knees bending, her toes grounding. It felt simple, yet powerful, like rediscovering something she had forgotten. The tension in her joints began to melt away, bit by bit. Her mind, once cluttered with worries, became still like calm water. Each breath matched each bend. Each rise brought a new sense of ease. She noticed how her balance improved when she softened her stance. It wasn't about strength or speed. It was about trust and awareness. For the first time, Grace truly felt present in her body. The exercise lasted only 10 minutes, but it felt timeless. When the group finished, everyone stood quietly, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Grace opened her eyes, feeling taller, lighter, more grounded. She looked down at her legs, the same legs that once hurt so much. Now they felt alive, awake, full of quiet strength. The leader turned to her with a gentle nod. "How do you feel?" he asked. Grace smiled, the corners of her eyes soft with gratitude. "Different," she said, "like my body is remembering something." He chuckled softly. "It remembers movement, it always does." Grace thought about that as she walked home, her steps steady and sure. The exercise wasn't just physical, it was a conversation with herself. And with each bend, each breath, she was learning to listen again. The morning sun followed her all the way home, warm and bright on her back. That afternoon, Grace sat by her window again, thinking about the morning. Her body felt different, softer somehow, yet stronger from within. There was a quiet pulse in her legs, a warmth that lingered after each move. She wondered why such a small motion could make her feel so alive. Curiosity led her to open her old notebook, the one she used for journaling. She wrote the words "knee to toe bends" at the top of the page. Then she paused, staring at the phrase as if it held a secret. She remembered the leader's calm voice. "It's about connection, not effort." Grace decided to learn more, so she visited the library near the park. Inside, the air smelled of paper and quiet wisdom. She found a small book about senior wellness and gentle movement. The pages spoke of muscles, joints, and the flow of energy through the body. She learned that the knees are the bridges of motion, connecting strength and balance. And the toes, though small, hold the roots of stability and posture. Together, they form the path of graceful movement, from ground to heart. Grace smiled, realizing how poetic it sounded, yet how true it felt. When she bent her knees and pressed her toes, She wasn't just exercising. She was aligning her body's rhythm with the earth beneath her. The book explained how slow, mindful bending improves circulation and balance. It helps blood reach every corner of the body, even the tired joints. Grace traced the words with her finger, her heart quietly lifting. Maybe it wasn't age that made people weak. Maybe it was stillness. Her mind drifted back to the park, to the faces of those seniors. They looked strong not because they fought time, but because they moved with it. Each bend was a reminder life is still happening, even in small motions. Grace returned home as the sky began to blush with evening light. She stood in her living room, the floor warm beneath her bare feet. She placed her hands on her hips, closed her eyes, and took a breath. Then she moved again, slowly, softly, knees bending, toes pressing. She imagined her breath flowing like water through her body. Inhale as she bent, exhale as she rose, her heart steady and calm. The world outside faded, and only movement remained. She felt her muscles respond like an old friend, waking from a nap. Her joints loosened, her body opened, her spirit lifted. In that quiet moment, she realized the truth behind the motion. The knee-to-toe bend wasn't just for the body, it was for the soul. It was a way of saying thank you to her legs for carrying her, to her breath for staying. Grace finished her practice and stood still, hands resting gently on her knees. The pain was still there, but it no longer ruled her. It was softer now, like a whisper instead of a weight. She smiled to herself, feeling light, steady, beautifully alive once more. Days turned into weeks, and Grace's mornings found a new rhythm. Each sunrise greeted her with movement instead of hesitation. Her knees, once stiff and unwilling, began to greet the floor with ease. She no longer feared the small crackle of joints or the weight of rising. Instead, she welcomed it as proof that her body was still listening. The park became her sanctuary, a place where time moved gently. The group of seniors had become her quiet circle of friends. They shared smiles more than words, understanding without speaking. Each of them carried their own story of loss, of healing, of hope. Grace often stood beside Mrs. Lynn, who moved with calm precision. "You see," Mrs. Lynn would whisper, "the body remembers kindness." Grace nodded, letting those words sink deep into her mind. Kindness, not pushing, not forcing, just allowing. Every morning, Grace practiced her bends with gratitude in her breath. Her legs grew steadier, her steps more confident each passing day. Even her neighbors noticed the lightness in her stride. "You seem different," one of them said. "You're glowing these days." Grace laughed softly, surprised by her own reflection in the mirror. Her posture had changed, shoulders open, chin lifted, eyes bright. The lines on her face were still there, but they told softer stories now. Stories of resilience, of quiet strength, of choosing to begin again. One morning, she arrived at the park earlier than usual. The air was cool, the sky painted in soft pink and gold. She began her routine alone, feeling the world wake around her. Her knees bent, her toes pressed, her breath matched the wind. She felt the gentle pull of the earth, the rise of balance through her spine. Every motion connected her to something larger, something timeless. And then she realized it wasn't about exercise anymore. It was about peace, about being fully alive in each simple movement. She thought back to the woman who once watched from her window. That woman had been afraid of pain, of aging, of slowing down. Now Grace no longer feared what time brought with it. She understood that change didn't have to mean loss. It could mean renewal, like spring returning after long winter rest. After practice, she sat on a bench beneath the trees. The breeze carried the laughter of children from the playground. Her legs tingled with warmth, her heart steady, her breath light. She remembered the first day. She could barely bend her knees. Now she moved with grace, fitting to her name once more. Mrs. Lin joined her, offering a bottle of water and a gentle smile. "You've become part of the rhythm," she said softly. Grace smiled, watching the sunlight ripple across the leaves. "Yes," she whispered, "and I never want to stop moving again." In that quiet morning, surrounded by life, Grace felt whole again. Every gentle bend was no longer effort. It was gratitude in motion. The next morning, the park shimmered with soft light and the scent of dew. Grace arrived early, her steps sure, her spirit calm and open. She had begun to notice the small things, the way her breath met the breeze, the way her feet felt steady on the ground beneath her. The group gathered slowly, each person greeting the morning in silence. The leader smiled when he saw Grace standing tall among them. "Let's begin," he said softly, his voice carrying peace through the air. Grace closed her eyes and took a slow breath, her mind quiet and still. "Stand with your feet shoulder width apart," the leader guided gently. Grace felt her balance settle, her spine lengthen, her chest open. "Now bend your knees slightly, just until you feel the ground's pull." Her body responded with ease, like a wave meeting the shore. "Shift your weight forward from knee to toe and breathe out." Grace exhaled, feeling her body grow lighter with each motion. "Good," the leader said. "Let your breath guide the movement. Inhale as you rise, exhale as you bend, stay steady, stay kind." Grace followed the rhythm, her breath and motion becoming one. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, her muscles relaxing with each bend. It wasn't effort anymore. It was connection, quiet and whole. Her mind no longer counted repetitions. It simply flowed. Each motion reminded her that strength could be gentle too. She glanced around, seeing other seniors move with quiet confidence. Their bodies told stories of age, but their movements spoke of grace. No one compared, no one rushed, only harmony and trust. The air shimmered with something soft, something alive. Grace smiled to herself, realizing how natural it had all become. She no longer needed to push her body. She needed only to listen. After the session, the leader turned to the group with a kind smile. "Do this every day, even for a few minutes," he said. "Your body remembers." Grace nodded, her heart full of quiet determination. At home, she decided to create a little practice space by the window. She placed a small mat, a chair, and a plant beside it. That afternoon, she practiced again, alone but not lonely. The sound of her breath filled the room like soft music. Each bend carried calmness deeper into her bones. Her body felt lighter, her thoughts clearer, her mood brighter. She began writing short notes in her journal after each session. Day 1, knees stiff but hopeful. Day 10, balance stronger, sleep deeper. Day 20, movement feels like peace. She realized this was more than an exercise. It was a daily prayer. A moment to thank her body for staying with her through time. Some evenings, her neighbors joined her by the window to follow along. Grace guided them gently, her voice soft, her smile wide and warm. As the sun dipped low, their small group moved in harmony. No music, no rush, only breathing, bending, and gratitude. And Grace thought this is how life should move, slowly, kindly together. The days flowed gently, one into another, like ripples on calm water. Grace's morning routine had become more than movement. It was meditation. She woke before sunrise, breathing in the quiet, feeling her heart steady. Her knees no longer ached like they once did. They felt strong, forgiving. She stretched by the window, the first light touching her face with warmth. Every bend, every breath reminded her of balance, body, mind, and spirit. She realized she was no longer chasing youth, but embracing presence. Aging, she thought, wasn't losing time, it was learning to live slowly. The park had become a gathering of peace, not just of people. Each morning, laughter mixed with birdsong and the rustle of leaves. The group moved together, soft and steady, their rhythm unbroken. Grace often led the warm-up now, her voice calm and certain. "Move with kindness," she would say. "Let your breath guide your strength." The others followed her words, their faces glowing with quiet joy. She could see it, the peace that came from gentle motion. Every knee bend, every toe press carried a message of care. It wasn't about flexibility anymore. It was about trust and patience. Grace often thought of how her body had once felt like a burden. Now it felt like a home, a friend she had finally learned to listen to. After practice, she liked to sit under the old oak tree nearby. The breeze would play with her hair as she watched the sunlight move. Sometimes she saw new faces joining the group, shy, hesitant, unsure. She smiled at them, remembering how she once stood at the edge too. With time, they would learn, just as she did, that small steps matter. That stillness can heal, and movement can whisper hope. One morning, a young woman approached her after class. "My grandmother used to do this," she said softly. "She said it healed her spirit." Grace smiled, her heart swelling with quiet emotion. "It heals more than the body," she replied. "It reminds us we're still alive." The young woman nodded, eyes bright with gratitude. Grace watched her walk away, feeling the circle of life continue. At home, she poured herself tea and looked out at the sky. The clouds drifted slowly, unhurried like her thoughts. She understood now that life didn't need to be rushed or perfect. It just needed to be lived one breath, one movement at a time. Later that evening, as the sun faded into soft gold, Grace moved again. No group, no teacher, just her and the sound of her breath. She bent her knees, pressed her toes, and smiled at the simplicity. Her reflection in the window looked peaceful, strong, beautifully human. She whispered to herself, "Thank you, body. Thank you for staying." Outside, the world glowed quietly, full of life and gentle motion. And Grace, standing tall and steady, felt the truth deep within her bones. That flexibility was never just about movement. It was about the heart. And in every gentle bend, she found the rhythm of being truly alive. The evening light softened as Grace stood by her window once more. The world outside moved slowly, bathed in the calm glow of sunset. She could see the park from afar, quiet now, resting after the day. Her reflection met her gaze, older, yes, but full of quiet strength. She touched her knee gently, feeling the warmth that had returned there. Not just in her joints, but deep inside where courage lived. Every movement, every breath had taught her something precious. That healing isn't about rushing, it's about returning to yourself. Grace smiled, remembering her first hesitant steps weeks ago. The pain, the fear, the doubt, all softened with time and patience. Now the bends felt like prayer, each one a thank you whispered to life. She poured herself a cup of tea, breathing in its simple comfort. Outside, the last light lingered on the leaves, golden and tender. Grace closed her eyes, whispering softly, "Tomorrow I'll move again." Because movement, she knew, wasn't just exercise, it was gratitude. And as the night embraced the world, she stood taller, steadier, whole. Her story was not about growing old, it was about growing gentle. And in every gentle bend, Grace had found her way back to living.